Today, I have a cautionary tale for you from my own experience and my own folly. This is about a time when I went a little overboard with my obsession of the discipline that I was living and the goals that I had for myself. It's kind of funny. Let's see where this goes. Hey there, it's me, Core, and you're listening to Exercising Self-Control from Fitness to Flourishing. I was lucky to have a friend that let me know I was going too far, because I'm sure there were other people in my life that were thinking, you've gone a little overboard, buddy, but they didn't let me know. So thank goodness for this one person. Here's what was going on. If I remember right, I was in, I think, my early 30s, somewhere around there. And I was working toward a body weight of 200 plus pounds. Now, I didn't compete as a bodybuilder. I wasn't training for anything else other than my own satisfaction, my own discipline, and my own goals. So I was a little obsessed. I was probably about 185, 190, and I wanted to get to 200 pounds plus. But here is what happened. I set an alarm for myself to go off every 2 hours, and I was going to eat, hungry or not. And I tried to do that with a clean diet. That was probably a mistake, because if I would have actually been a little bit more lenient with my calories, what happened wouldn't have happened. I calculated my macros, so I knew what kind of protein I was wanting, the carbs, the fats, and I tried to make it as clean as I could. I would eat whatever worked to fit my macros. So I would eat things like canned corn and tuna. Like that would be a meal. I would just eat them together. Just straight out of the can, canned tuna, canned corn. That was a meal, for example. 2 pieces of bread, peanut butter on it, measured the peanut butter, had the slices of bread calculated, and then I would just have water to wash it down. Because according to my calculations, if I remember right, couldn't have any milk with that, because then that would screw up some other meals down the road. I had it all calculated. This is the foolishness that I went through. I had a job in a warehouse, so I was able to eat while I was working. That worked out. Like, my bosses didn't have a problem with this. Great people. With my friends, I would get invited maybe to a movie or to an event, and first thing I would do is I would look at my watch and I would ask when it was, and then, sorry, that conflicts with my eating schedule. I don't know if I said that out loud. I probably did, because I thought I was very impressive in my discipline. The invitation started to dry up a little bit. I also was getting no pleasure from the food that I was eating. I was eating hungry or not, and usually within 2 hours, I was not hungry. So I was just force feeding myself. As a result, I also got heartburn like mad. So whenever I would do anything where I was on my stomach or on my back, it would start to burn in my throat, and I was miserable, essentially. But I was doing it because that's what it would take in my mind. Then the one friend that pulled me out of this had me shaking my head eventually. She and her husband invited me over to their daughter's birthday party. And this was at a time when their daughter was quite young. Like, I don't even think she was in school yet. I looked at my watch, found out what the timing was, and I said, hey, is it all right if I bring food of my own? And by the way, can I use your blender? And I explained what it was all about. They acquiesced. They said, sure, no problem. And I went. I didn't eat any of the cake. I didn't, drink any of the pop. I had my own food. Everyone else was having a good time with the food. So my friend had a little conversation with me and asked me about it, and was getting details about how I wasn't going out to movies and all these things. And she basically said, is this working for you? Like, is that how you want to live? And I really sat down and thought, is this working for me? Because as I said, I was quite miserable. Like, food was no longer fun. I wasn't getting invited out anymore because why would we invite Core? The event is 4 hours long. He's got to eat every 2 hours, so that's obviously not going to work. I looked at my life and I decided, okay, let's tone this down. I went back to not exactly a loose eating schedule, but I was more flexible. I wasn't driving to make that weight gain something that had to happen in a certain amount of time. And I was able to enjoy life with my friends, and the heartburn went away. I got pleasure from food once again, and it wasn't an obsession. I had let my goals become detached from my values. And I talked about this in the episode, Your Form and Technique Beyond the Gym. Goals need to serve values, because otherwise you end up living in a way that is not what you actually want. The goal became something for me in this instance that was detached from how I wanted to live with my friends, how I wanted to live with the food that I was eating. It all went sideways because I wasn't thinking about my values anymore. I was just distracted by the power of the goal that I had. I valued, and I still value, being a disciplined person. But in that relationship that I started to have with the goal of reaching that weight, I lost sight of the other values that were just as important, or even perhaps more important, if I think long term. Thought I'd just throw that little story out there for you from my own life. That's it for today. Catch you next time.